So yeah, let me get this straight. If you pay $29.99 for the collectible Samus amiibo in Metroid Prime 4, you get to play select music while driving the Viola bike in the otherwise quiet desert. In other words, they locked music while riding through the desert behind $30 paywall. I don't know why. I don't even know why they turned Metroid open world. I don't get it. There's a video by Skill Up, but it's 30 minutes long. Maybe we can watch a little bit. I will not watch the entire thing, but we can maybe get like a glance of what is going on with this game.
For a record 6 years now, Squarespace has been helping me turn my dream into something. You can watch how this one. Stick around to the end of the video to learn more. Alright, let's do the disclaimer thing since I know how this one's going to go. This is a review written by me, Shillup. It's an opinion. It is not a statement of objective fact. Every single critic review for this game is either mixed or positive, so please go and read and watch other reviews because clearly I'm not on the same page as everyone else with this one. Most importantly, if you like Metroid Prime games and you want to play another one of them that feels almost identical in all key aspects, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is the game for you, so long as you don't mind.
I only see people clowning on these characters. They look goofy ass stupid, like millennials, and they talk about, and they are like soy facing whenever they see Samus.
The inclusion of a bunch of bullshit that makes the game worse than the original games, or at least certainly worse than Metroid Prime 1.
Wow, look at this open world. Look how great this open world is. It's just a big ass desert with nothing.
Since I know 2 and 3 were a bit of a mixed bag.
Look at nothing!
I definitely reflect on the feedback I got from my Ghost of Yote review where people were like, hey man, just because this isn't new doesn't mean it isn't good. And that's very true. And I think it's especially relevant here in Metroid Prime 4 because this is the first Metroid Prime game in over a decade. And I'm sure that plenty of people are going to be really happy with this because they just want that old school Metroid
I'm always
Prime
miserable.
feeling. And you know what? That old school feeling is really the one part of Metroid Prime 4 that I really loved. Like I said in my preview, it's been a really long time since we've played a Metroid Prime game. And even since games were designed like this controller-first model of shooters that found its feet in the Xbox and PS2 and GameCube era, the combat pacing, assisted enemies, time to kill, the size of the...
Isn't that the exact same type of fight they already had, like, even on the Nintendo DS, Metroid Prime Hunters, where you just shoot whatever is glowing?
The enemies and the
until you can shoot the core.
The way that Metroid Prime 4 tunes these things feels pulled from that bygone era, and there's a nice, familiar, nostalgic feeling that you get stepping back into it. There's also great comfort to be found in the core Metroid Prime formula, and by that I mean, it's cool to see the world through Samus's visor. It's cool to scan things and let the flavor text do the storytelling. It's cool to be a morph ball and roll through the gizzards of a world like a sunken cue ball rolling back towards the dispensary. In moments like these, Metroid Prime 4 is still a Metroid Prime game, but it is absolutely
I like Metroid Prime 3, and I like Metroid Prime Hunters.
After seeing how much the Metroidvania genre has evolved in the past 2 decades, and after seeing how much Nintendo has evolved their flagship franchises, I think it would have been fair to have expected a lot more from Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I don't think that unlocking the double jump power-up is enough to cut it in 2025 when you don't use that power-up for anything more interesting than you can now reach that place that you couldn't reach before. Modern Metroidvania design takes those power-ups and makes them more than just keys.
No, don't show them an indie game that is made by 3 people that is way superior in every aspect. Don't, it's not fair to compare. It's not fair. Samus is an icon, but that Metroid gameplay looks like they made it in the Nintendo Game Maker garage thing. Yeah, it is. I don't know. People really praise Nintendo since the Switch. I don't see it. I really don't. To me, all these games are okay, but that's about it. Like, when I look at these, like, Breath of the Wild or, like, Mario Odyssey, people praise them as the greatest thing ever made. But when I look at them, I'm like, I played at least 10 other games that did it better, and earlier, and look better, and have better performance. But I think Nintendo fans, they only ever play Nintendo. So whenever they get like a 3D open world Zelda, which every 3D Zelda is open world, but that's a different topic. For them, it's like, oh my god, this is revolutionary. No, because they never played a Red Dead Redemption 2. They never played Red Dead Redemption 1. They don't know these games. They never played a GTA. Straight up, I will just call all Nintendo fans like sheltered little, soy facing that never even played a GTA game. A GTA 5 still looks better, which is 11 years old, by the way. Still looks better than any, or like 11 years? 12? Miles ahead of anything on the Switch. Way bigger, way more involved, way deeper. I'm not even the biggest GTA fan, but Rockstar does know how to cook open world games. They really do. Just look at Red Dead Redemption 2, that game looks amazing. Runs really well. And you can look at the towns and the mud and everything like works. You can run through the mud and it will leave the prints in there. You can drag people through the mud. They get dirty. And these games are so old. Like, so old, but when you have people who always just accept the slop from Nintendo, and that is what it is to me. Just 5 out of 10 slop. It's okay, but it's not more than okay.
Augments, offering you new capabilities that can be used creatively in different contexts to deepen moment-to-moment gameplay or facilitate more engaging level or puzzle design. But here in Metroid Prime 4, almost all the power-ups you collect have no functionality.
I feel like Nintendo's just stuck in time.
Utility. If Prime 4 wasn't going to expand the formula, then perhaps it could have refined it.
They just never
either. Backtracking, for example,
is never made it into the future. Nintendo never made this step into even the last generation. They are still on the Wii U and Wii time. That's still where they are stuck, in my opinion. I'd go as far. I would say I enjoyed Super Mario Galaxy way more than Super Mario Odyssey. I played Odyssey everything. I did everything. I did also the when you get like the 250 moons, the special challenge maps. I did all that stuff. Galaxy was better. I had way more fun with Galaxy. Maybe it's because when I played Galaxy, I was actually like a child. I don't know. I like Galaxy. It's probably my favorite Mario.
It was a simpler time back then. But in 2025, backtracking is something we have solved by either avoiding it or by making it worthwhile or interesting. Metroid Prime 4 not only has boring backtracking when nothing happens, but it's made worse by adding in unskippable loading sequences and these weird lengthy stretches of nothingness between the desert's exit point and the actual...
That's the problem! Open world does... I don't know what it is with XX right now. Who will just cram open world into everything for like the last 2 generations. It is not a net positive. I view open world in the most times as a negative because it's boring. And then you fill it with the same 3 things. Even Elden Ring, which I really enjoyed my time with Elden Ring, I don't really replay it as much as I replay, let's say, Dark Souls 2 or Dark Souls 1. Because you have to run so much, even in Elden Ring, which has like a lot of points of interest. Like a lot. There's a lot of stuff in between the running for Elden Ring. The problem, I did that already. I explored the map. I know everything. So now that I know what is in what cave and I know where the items that I want for my build are, I have no incentive to go into all of these points of interest, right? So what ends up is I just run through a giant map with nothing worthwhile. Elden Ring pretty much is just a boss rush game. You run from once. The first hour is the most interesting because that's when you actually get your stuff, your gear, the items and spells you want. Yo, Knuckle. And after that, you just beeline from boss to boss to boss to boss until you get the credits. That's Elden Ring. And the problem is you have to run for like 5 minutes straight with a horse in between. That's boring. With the games like Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2, everything is way more close together. And the levels itself have like enemies and you know, little traps and stuff. So the moment-to-moment gameplay is, first of all, shorter, and you don't run as much in empty spaces. That's why I think Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 are far better, and Bloodborne as well, or like Sekiro, all of them. There's way more interesting things in the moment-to-moment gameplay that is not just running in a straight line. And I still have 420 hours in Elden Ring. It's not like I hate this game. I think I replayed Dark Souls 1 way more, and Dark Souls 2. At least on consoles and PC combined. With like one boss in Elden Ring, then quit because it was not sure, but yeah. No, I think Elden Ring is amazing. Don't get me wrong, I think it's great. But open world games just have a bigger fatigue on each replay session because all the exploration and mystery is gone. I repeat myself. I'm like in open world section right now.
Place you're trying to get to. The collectibles economy and incentives are similarly unresolved. When I already have 200 rounds for my elemental weapons, do I really want to schlep across the entire map so I can solve a puzzle that gives me another 10 rounds? Instead of innovating on or refining the core Metroid Prime formula, Retro has instead opted to just bolt a bunch of bullshit onto it, and all of it makes the game worse. The team of companions you meet are an ill fit for the tone of the game, and they chime in with unhelpful advice and commentary all the time, and the
I hate that. That is what I liked about about the Metroid games. Like, you have a silent protagonist. Samus isn't talking. At most, you get all the storytelling is through analyzing and, analyzing ruins, inscriptions, and places, and you piece together what is happening. Why do they add all these annoying ass dudes who constantly talk to you? This is like what we talked with Fujimoto earlier. The old Metroid games respected the player for piecing together the story and the lore and the places. And now you just have these cringe millennials constantly yapping.
The fact that Samus just stares at them, totally mute for the game's entire runtime, is so weird. The bike is such a disappointment given how underutilized it is, except when traversing the desert, and the desert is unspeakably awful. It is just a barren wasteland of boredom and disappointment, and its biggest offering are green crystals that you have to smash into, and you better smash into those green crystals. Otherwise, you will find yourself in the position that I found myself in, where I was forced to spend an entire hour doing laps around this desert, smashing into green crystals before I could commence this game's finale. That is a true story, by the way. I swear to God. I'll come back to that later. Look, it's obvious that I have strong feelings about this game. I'm a Nintendo fan. I'm a Metroid fan. I'm a Metroidvania fan. I absolutely love the ever-living shit out of Metroid Dread. I thought it was incredible.
Leon played that.
This was honestly just
I haven't played it. Maybe I would try it.
And I think that if the Prime franchise is to continue, it's going to need to be rebuilt from first principles, because right now it just feels haphazard, confused, and
obviously
dated.
I will play it on an emulator with 60 FPS and not on a Fisher-Price console. God, I hate how they look.
Beyond is the latest game in the hit video game series Metroid, starring the titular hero, John Metroid. No, I'm joking, of course. Samus Aran is back, and this time, she's lost her powers and needs to get them back. What?
Not again!
Starts on a space station besieged by space
the third
pirates.
time.
Samus repels the attack only for Sylex to rock up, triggering an ancient artifact that whisks Samus away to a different planet, bereft of her ship and her powers. She now needs to find a way off that rock so she can continue her bounty hunting adventures. Story-wise, we've got to start with one of Metroid Prime 4's biggest whiffs, Sylex. This guy is introduced in the first major cutscene, and you get the sense that he's going to be the game's antagonist, but he's not. The game has no real antagonist, to be honest. Sylex just rocks up a few times, and you can fight him. Doesn't have any real dialogue. He doesn't explain his motives or whatever. I honestly don't know what his deal is, other than he hates Samus. There's probably some codex.
Wow, isn't that amazing? You fight against that dude, like two bounty hunter, trained like super shooting and everything. They are super good at everything, and they just put them in a round box, a round arena. Why don't they go into like you know what you could have done with that? Also, yes, Metroid Prime Hunters was so good. That was so much fun. Holy shit, the multiplayer was insane. You know what I would have done with like this hunter fight? I would just straight up do Warzone Gulag. Nothing too crazy. Just put him in a big room, put some, things in there, so you don't just circle around them, locked on, and shoot. Have them get some cover and shit, or have you get some cover. What is this boss fight?
Entry that tells me something about him, but it's notable that the cast of companions won't shut up and will endlessly spout exposition, but it feels like the game has too few words to spare to set up a compelling villain.
This is so
you can basically just park.
I don't know if it's a weird thing for me to get hung up, but that's so sad. How that is a boss fight between two like very, very elite hunter. And they're just shooting at each other, running in circles in a round room with nothing inside. Metroid Prime Hunters on the, now that I think about it, you would fight against other hunters in Metroid Prime Hunters story, and they would have actual rooms with actual, things in there where you could go into a ball form and stuff, and they would go into the ball form and have like their own, like, there was a green guy who turns into a lava, and like there's mines on the ground, and you could jump on platforms that would be like, what is it called? Deckung. Like walls and shit. Anything that is not just a flat surface. Jesus.
Him as a narrative element, to be honest. The broader
story that on the Nintendo DS.
It's centered on an extinct race of beings who once occupied this planet. The last of their kind has been waiting for Samus.
It's an axolotl.
She's been prophesized as a chosen one, and the narrative is then centered on trying to figure out how this race fell into extinction. Each of the major dungeons you'll visit tells part of that story, and there isn't a huge amount of expository dialogue or whatever, but through a combination of environmental storytelling, scanned data, codices, and the odd cutscene here or there, you can piece together a story worth paying attention to, one all the richer for the gaps that it leaves. The process of piecing this together is far more engaging
just the
and
volcano
rewarding
level.
than having it
You need the red
spoon-fed to
suit.
And that's very much in keeping with the Prime franchise, so it's nice to see that Retro have shown some restraint here. I wish they showed the same restraint when it came to the other main narrative element, companions. Now, obviously, everyone really went to town on Paul
God,
Miles
I hate
during
how
the
he
previous
looks.
cycle,
Makes
declaring
me so
Metroid
mad. He looks
murdered
like
at his hands. The truth is, he's not
such a
that bad on his
self-insert.
own when put together with a cast that are equally goofy in their own way. The whole narrative tone of the game is thrown off balance. So the way this works is that each dungeon, of which there are 5, will introduce you to a new companion character, will typically fight alongside you for a bit before heading back to base camp when the dungeon is clear. After that, they'll chime in on radio every now and then, or they'll appear in cutscenes when it's relevant. These characters, by and large, are not aligned to the overall tone of the Metroid franchise. You've probably seen Miles' introduction already. Here's another one for Private Armstrong. Show him, Stu.
It's really you. I don't even know what to say. Is this a new suit?
You cannot tell me that is not a self-insert of some millennial bullshit writer who's like soy-facing every time they see Samus.
Amazing, I love it so much.
Shut the fuck up.
Right, sorry. Private First Class Nora Armstrong.
So, yeah, now you can see it's not just Miles fangirling out. There's also a commander dude who's like Sergeant Johnson from Halo, but without anywhere near as much sauce, though to be fair, few humans, alive or dead, have as much sauce as Johnson had.
Dude,
There's a robot
Johnson was so
companion
fucking goated.
well, he's kind of just a robot, really. There's one character who's a sniper, and he's actually pretty good. And he feels like he fits the game because he isn't trying to get Samus's autograph or some shit. Like, he's a proper warrior, and he's seen shit. And if the cast of characters was more like this, I could have seen it working, but seeing Samus babysit these fangirling dweebs just doesn't sit right.
Fangirling dweebs. Perfect. But that's all the writers probably. They are all fangirling dweebs. Never been cool, never will be.
But tell me, where are we?
The crew is meant to be an emotional linchpin
on a Nintendo
for the game,
console.
one that's leaned on pretty heavily and pretty often, but it doesn't work because Samus doesn't talk, and I don't want to get into a massive debate about the narrative effectiveness of the silent protagonist, so all I'll say is that sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Here,
the silent protagonist worked really great in the old Metroid Prime games, because you would just scan and read, you would be by yourself. Dude, you can probably count the amount of times in Metroid Prime 3 where you talk to someone talks to you. Never happens. You would just read on everything. And often got sold to slavery and turned into super well. Yeah, kind of, yeah. That's, I don't know if they changed it, but I think the plot was Samus' parents got killed by Ridley. That's like the dragon. He's like a space pirate or some shit. And she pretty much became a hunter to revenge. Was it that? Leon, you probably know that. When you have so much, yeah, but Metroid Prime is more like Dark Souls on that. You don't really have much character interactions or like told stories. It is more you look at places, you look at ruins, you read and translate these different inscriptions and places and get information like that, and you piece together the story for yourself. It is not really it was always more a show don't tell kind of game. When she had to kill Ridley 5 times, so yeah. Infuse it with their DNA. Man, I have no idea. I played 2 Metroid games. Super Metroid on the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and I played Metroid Prime 3. Yep, free, only free, not the first two. Because I never had a GameCube, but I had a Switch, a Wii. So yeah. But I like those. I really like those two. Well, fun. Super Metroid speedrunning, but no. That would be a little bit too much.
It doesn't work. There are too many lines of lighthearted dialogue for Samus's brooding silence to come off as anything other than weird. And if the goal was to get me believing that there's some camaraderie between these people, then Samus needed to at least offer the odd please or thank you in pivotal moments, or something, anything more than just a barely perceptible nod of the head every 2 hours.
Glad you made it out. Thank you. Anyway, we could use a breather.
So these characters don't really fit with the sort of vibe that you want to experience in a Metroid game, but their most disruptive quality is what a nuisance they are in gameplay scenarios or in open world sequences. When fighting alongside them, they mostly just die and you have to spend valuable time resurrecting them, otherwise you get pushed to the game over screen. When you're exploring the desert and you're unsure where to go next,
so the entire
Miles
game is an escort mission.
By saying something vague like, maybe you should go back to somewhere you've been before and try out that new upgrade, which is not helpful because it's not specific. Or he'll say, you should go to this specific place to use that new upgrade, which I don't want him to do because I want to figure it out for myself. There's no option to turn him off, and oh my god, by the end of the game, when I'm forced to drive around the desert for an hour...
That looks like ass. At least with Silk Song, you also backtrack a couple times. At least it's worthwhile. Like, after you get into the second half of the game, or like part 2, you get a new cloak, which helps you, you know, get, was it double jump? And with that double jump, you reach like new places, and it also, by the time, you will have new boss fights. You would have new boss fights in old areas because you get to these new places with your upgrades. And it's not that big, and you have like fast travel to most places, that it was never punishing to re-explore the places. Also, if you kill some extra enemies on the way, you would get like the beats, and you can buy new other upgrades or like materials and stuff like that. So there's always something to you would look forward to exploring. If I look at this shitty ass, empty ass desert, and I would have to, okay, you got the double jump now, and now drive through the entire desert to the east to get another plus 10 rocket space. Ugh. Which is regular 2D Metroidvania games. 3D gets messy. 3D is a problem because they want to convey size. I guess, no. I would even say this is just a fucking open world game problem. If the game wouldn't be open world, because the other Metroid 3Ds, or like at least Metroid Prime 3, did not have that problem. Also, Metroid Prime 3 was more interesting. Like, the game would pretty much start and you get a shadow Samus, like a dark Samus antagonist that you would have to constantly fight, like Dark Samus here. So that was pretty cool. And these fights, you have to fight this one multiple times and like throughout the entire game. It was cool, like. And instead of having like a big open world, you would have like multiple planets and you would just travel between them.
Collecting green crystals, Miles calls me up every 10 minutes being like, hey man, don't forget green crystals, collect them and then bring them back to base camp so you can grow the memory fruit, okay? And I'm just like, dude, shut up.
Like, he's losing it. Like, Ocarina of Time, kind of open world with some things where you had to return with items from later in the game. It wasn't bad. Yeah, because the Ocarina of Time's map isn't as big. Even if, funny enough, getting Epona is completely optional. Even funnier, half of the desert section, optional. You don't even have to do it. You don't even need to do all of that stuff. You can do it. You can beat the entire game without ever unlocking the horse. I know that because I did that. I think I never did. I think my friends got me to get the horse, so I unlock it, but I never used the horse. I always forgot about it because you can just walk from across the Hyrule field. Like, that's the biggest open place, but you could just walk from the water place to the fire place to that other desert place to the kingdom fairly quick. It is never overstaying its welcome. And at least there's some stuff, like if you go out at night in the into the big field, the castle would close its doors and like monsters would spawn at night, so you would have to survive until the sun rises again. I wonder if this game does the same. Probably not. Like archery on horseback. Yeah, but I also never did that. That's the great thing about Ocarina of Time. There is a lot to do. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. You can beat the game just fine without all the additional stuff. It's not forcing you to do certain things. I'm pretty sure if I would replay Ocarina of Time, I would find a lot of things I haven't seen in the first time I played it. Pretty sure, because I would just try to beat the game without exploring that much.
Just shut up. What do you think I've been doing for the past hour, my dude? Please launch yourself into the sun. So, while the overall mystery of this planet is compelling and well told owing to its subtlety, the rest of the narrative falls very flat indeed. Silex is just a recurring mini-boss. I wouldn't even call him a villain, honestly. I think that assigns too much intent to him. The broader cast is a playful collection of tropey stereotypes who are an ill fit for this franchise, and Samus's inability to meet them at their conversation level makes it feel like either they or Samus wandered into the wrong game. But given that Samus's picture is on the box,
I think a bunch of millennial cringe soldiers have no place in any game.
And you've got a narrative and cast that undermine the overall experience.
I cannot even think of a popular game that has that type of character. Saints Row failed. Borderlands 3 failed. Borderlands 4, because Borderlands 3 is ass, no trust, failed, pretty much. All these other indie games that have like Dustborn and all that shit failed. To the point where even Ole and I give up playing it. I could finish it, but do you guys really want me to finish it? I don't think you want to. I know Willow always had like an aneurysm explode in his head every time we played Dustborn. It was fun for like 1 or 2 streams, making fun of it a little bit. It had one cool thing. That's the one thing I could say. Even if I have nothing positive, nothing really good to say about the gameplay, the music, the story, the characters. There's at least one little segment of that game that I really did think was smart. How you would get like 3 answers, and the gaslighting character would keep talking to you while you wait. While I was waiting, like, what decision do I make? And they kept talking to you, and your answer options disappeared and changed, because over time the gaslighting character would actually gaslight you. And that is, I think that was really smart, because normally in these games you have to make a decision and you get a timer. And this was like a natural timer, a timer that made sense within the game. You get gaslighted. You don't have a visual timer, you get gaslighted over time. I think that was really smart, and that is probably the best aspect or the best segment of the entire game. And I would even go as far and say that was so smart and good done, or really well done, that it even tops a lot of the, standard mechanics of the other Telltale games, because the Telltale games always just have a timer running. So I can at least say one positive thing about Dustborn. I get woke games that only make them look like shit people. That was the other thing. I don't understand how Dustborn, how did they write the main character and thought, yeah, that is our hero, because she was such a bitch. I wouldn't even make that much fun of the other characters anymore, because I felt like they got abused all the time. I felt bad for them. There's no target audience. Hey, there's dozens of them. At least 2 dozen of the target audience, and they all played it, and then it was me. Who bought it for $8.
Rather than enhance it.
But I also think we get pretty much where this game is at.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about Metroidvania design here and how much it's evolved over the past.
Okay, now, but we don't need to go over all the in-depth. I think this was interesting. The first 10 minutes pretty much told me anything I need to know about this game. Cringe NPCs, boring open world, outdated gameplay loop. That is pretty much what we can take away from this. Yeah, sure. So, Leon, you are a fan of Metroid games. Will you be getting this game. Do you even have a Switch 2? Does anyone here have a Switch 2? Anyone? Huh? Probably not. Can't blame you. I wouldn't get one. Anyways, let me know what you think about the new Metroid game. Will you play it? Will you buy the $30 amiibo to unlock music? Will you drive through the empty deserts? Anyways, I will see you in the next one. Bye!